Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Legacy Leadership Podcast. Here we are with episode 1. Wanted to reach out to you all and say hello and thank you for tuning in. This podcast is presented by the Legacy Leadership Consulting Firm and the Legacy Empowerment Academy, where our vision is to change the world of leadership education, such that leaders become firmly rooted in the truth that everyone has amazing gifts to share with the world, and that the purpose of leadership, the true purpose of the leader, is to develop one's ability to increase awareness of these gifts and to facilitate the manifestation of these gifts in others. All right? So, the goal of this podcast and the mission of Legacy Leadership Consulting is to help leaders cultivate environments to facilitate the manifestation of their team's greatness and to create systems that transform and sustain that transformation, right? We develop leaders who develop leaders. For more information on how we can transform your business or your organization's leadership team, please go to www.legacyleadershipmastery.com. You can also learn more about the Empower Method that we teach by reading the best-selling book, Why Can't People Just Do Their Jobs? That's now available on Amazon Kindle for $7.99. However, you'll find a link in the description and in the comments later. However, if you stick around to the end of the podcast, I will let you know how you can go about getting the book for free. Again, if you stick around to the end, you can figure out how to get a book for free. So really quickly, just want to go over the rules of the podcast. Rule number 1, we want to make sure that you get connected. If you like what you're hearing, right, and then I want you to make sure that you like my page, like the page, and and get connected. Also, get access to our other content by joining the secret group, our hashtag Legacy Leaders group. And you definitely want to set up Facebook to notify you when we go live so that you never miss an episode. We're going to be doing these every week again, Tuesday nights from 9 to 10 Eastern time. And so make sure that Facebook is notifying you, letting you know. All right. Rule number 2, we want you to spread the wealth. Don't keep all the information that we bring here to yourself, right? If you like it, if you think it's helpful, if you know somebody that could benefit, then make sure you share the podcast with all of your friends so that they don't miss out, right? And sharing is also the first step to making sure that you can get the book for free. So there's always that part of it that we want to remember, right? Last rule number 3 is the RESPECT rule, right? Respectful commentary only. It doesn't have to be positive, right? You can disagree with what I have to say. You can disagree with what my guests have to say. But the point is that we have to agree to be respectful, right? However it is, whether you agree with us, whether you don't agree with us, all comments need to make sure that everybody is treated with respect. And that's all I'm going to say on that. So now let's turn to our guest for today. Our guest today is Miss Mirela Borsan. Mirela is a leadership success coach at Inspirational Leadership Coaching. She just retired as a police lieutenant and spent the last 14 years of her career as a first-line supervisor and executive manager. She is a certified life coach and working toward becoming a master coach in behavioral coaching. Mirela has a master's degree in organizational management and an MBA, and is passionate about everything leadership. She also is the proud parent of a fur baby, 11-year-old Bichon, and she's currently residing in Arizona. So let's go ahead and bring on our guest. Let me go ahead and make sure that we've got the there. Our Facebook to do its thing. Why don't you go ahead and give us some love? Show me just a bunch of hearts right now. Let me know that you're here. Loving what's going on. All right. And so let's see. Looks like Mirela's here. How you doing, Mirela?
Hi, Robert. Good to see you again.
All right. So I think that we get a little bit of feedback or something. So I don't know if we turn it down and that might work. Let me see. Turn mine down as well.
And I'm going to use my earpieces just in case.
Okay, good to go. Yeah, I think that did it. I don't hear any feedback now. Are you hearing me all right?
Yes, I hear you fine.
Right. Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you for coming out and being our guest on the first episode of the Legacy Leadership Podcast. I really appreciate you being here. And I remember we had such a good time when I was on your show that I wanted to make sure that you were able to come out and bless the people with all the goodness that you have to bring. All right?
Yes, we did. We talked for like an hour and a half, I think.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm really excited. And I want you to go ahead and kind of tell us a little bit about your practice as a leadership coach. Let the people know a little bit about kind of who do you help and what do you help them with.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for being here, watching us live at Robert's first podcast. I'm so proud of you, Robert, and I love your book, and I'm so proud of your accomplishments.
Well,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. I'm honored to be here, and please let us know where you're coming in from. If you're watching us live, just let us know where you're coming from and give us some hearts and some love just so we know that you are here with us and that you were watching. Robert is an extraordinary leader and extraordinary everything, and I am very, very humbled and honored to be here.
Well, thank
So, as far as me, I help leaders. So, what I work primarily with, Robert, I specialize in working with small business owners who are
you.
trying to expand. And for the
Nice.
first time, they are leaders in the sense that they're bosses, they're managers,
Mm-hmm.
and they're managing now people. Because
Mm-hmm.
they may have had the small business, they only been a team of one, and
Mm-hmm.
now their business is growing, which is absolutely phenomenal, but they may not be so comfortable with the idea of necessarily managing people. So I
Mm-hmm.
help them with that part, develop their leadership skills, or at least enhance their leadership skills. They probably already have some leadership skills, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just good to have somebody to help and guide through. So that's one niche, so to speak. And the other one, I like to focus primarily on first line managers, first level managers, and second or mid managers.
Nice.
And the reason for that is because that's where I believe the most impact is.
Talk to
As
us.
you
Talk to the people about that a little bit.
So, as you know, you're a man of uniform, and I just retired from the police department, and we know how important are those, not just the informal leaders are, but those first line supervisors. For you, it
Mm-hmm.
was probably a platoon, I don't know,
Yep.
corporal
Yep. Two
or
sergeants and
lead
your
sergeant, and
first
for us
sergeant.
was the
Yep.
same, exactly, and for us was the same thing. And I believe that they have the most impact, and this is, I'm not talking about just the sergeants, but I'm talking the first level, the first straight
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
of
Squad leaders.
supervision of leaders. And I believe that they have such an impact on our employees, but also on the bottom line.
Nice.
Because if we think about it, they are truly the ones who can make a difference and their employee motivation. The CEO is not going to come down, especially if he's super busy or he's not an herb killer and where he knows
Mm-hmm.
everybody, all his employees, and knows all them by first name and so forth, or even the Costco CEO, and we all know he's an awesome leader, or
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorites, John C. Maxwell, same thing.
Yep.
And it takes a special person to do that and to wear those many hats. So that's why I
Mm-hmm.
really believe that a lot of the heavier work, so to speak, as far as employee engagement, employee empowerment, employee motivation,
Mm.
profits, it really lies in the hands of the first line managers.
Definitely, definitely. And kind of following along with what you're talking about with first line managers, I wanted to kind of get to for those business owners and those first line managers, what are some of the common myths kind of that they fall prey to when they're trying to become leaders? What are some of the things that you see in your practice?
I think that one of the things is that I can do it all, or if it's not important. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because people look at the leadership as a a term or a fad or
Right.
something.
Right.
They don't, and I look at it as a skill. I really believe that leadership is a skill that you gain because we both know, and I'm sure other people know as well, that management is an important part of leadership. You have to be a good manager. You cannot constantly be a leader and just be visionary and charismatic, but don't get down and dirty in the business. That doesn't happen.
Right.
We both know that you cannot just lead a business with charisma alone. You cannot make
Exactly.
profits with that.
Right.
So I think that leadership is a skill that we can all work on and improve upon. And
Nice.
I believe that people don't take it seriously, or in the sense that they don't look at it as a necessary thrive or not thrive skill.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And kind of why is that? Why does this work specifically? Why is this work kind of important to you in fixing the way that people look at leadership and getting them to develop that skill? Why is that important to you to do this type of work?
Because I really believe that leadership is important in everything. When we touch something in our life, like it took me years to get to where I'm here today, and I'm not saying by far that I'm the best. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm better than I was 10 years ago,
There
for
you
sure.
go. Improve.
But exactly, and you improve and you grow and you invest time in the personal growth. But I've seen the changes that it also makes in your personal life because it trickles down. You cannot be a good father and a crappy boss, because you
Exactly.
cannot be godly at home and at work you're going to be the opposite. It just that just, to me, that doesn't match. It
Right.
doesn't synergize. So
Right.
when we touch one area of the life, the other one absolutely enhances
Nice.
and it gets better. So
Nice.
for
I
me,
like that.
leadership is a way of living, whether at the job or at home, volunteering at church, whatever you at,
Right.
that is an important skill to have.
Exactly. Yeah. And I always like to talk to my clients and explain to them like your leadership, your ability to develop leadership, and whether you think you're a leader or not, you're a leader in a lot of other places. And your leadership in people's lives transforms not just how they are at work, but when you teach people to be better leaders, you transform how they interact with all of the people that they come into contact with. They become better parents, they become better community members, they become better spouses, they become better brothers and sisters, etc., because leadership is it changes the way they see the world. So no, that's right in line with, and like we talked about last time when we were on, right, we're right here as far as thinking about leadership. Talk to the people a little bit about, and tell us about a little bit, how did you become the leader that you are? What was the kind of journey that you came through? What was your background with leadership?
So it's kind of funny you ask this question in the sense that I see it all the time on Quora. I love
Mm-hmm.
writing articles and answers there, and people ask all the
Mm-hmm.
time, well, how do you get a better leader? How do you improve your leadership skills? What are the most characteristics of a leader?
Mm-hmm.
And these are all great questions, and I love them all. And I think that when I realized that I sucked as a leader, because I was going to trainings and I'm like, oh my God, I am terrible. And
Mm-hmm.
perhaps not necessarily, necessarily bad, but I wasn't the greatest. So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of got the attention of me to work on it, improve, seek mentorship,
Mm-hmm.
read
Right.
insatiably on
Right.
leadership, listen to leadership stuff. But then the key to all of this is
Mm-hmm.
applying what you learn.
Right.
Because
Definitely.
a while back, I wrote a blog post on my site that's called Why Leadership Training Doesn't Work. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
it is because we don't apply it. We all go there. We are motivated. We are inspired. We are moved and we resonate with
Mm-hmm.
the message.
Mm-hmm.
but we come back and we either forget about it, don't find it as important. It's not the sense of urgency. We don't find that the organizational culture perhaps is good enough to allow us to do things. We don't have
Right.
other people's support. Other people look at you like you have three heads and two tails.
Right.
So,
So you run into kind of a lot of opposition and everything. And
yes.
so when was this kind of in your career? When was this that you started realizing, hey, I don't really kind of get this? What? So was this when you were at the police force?
Yes. So
Okay.
when I first became a sergeant, and so in 2006, I promoted to sergeant.
Okay.
And I started going to all these leaderships, trainings and seminars, and I put my hand on everything I could.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I started doing, which a lot of people weren't doing at the time, is I literally sat down with my employees and I asked them, how am I doing?
Nice. Nice.
And I know it was kind of scary, and it kind of like, oh my God, my sergeant. We both know it's not really like in a regular organization, the private sector. We all know
Mm-hmm.
it's more rigid, and if the
Mm-hmm.
rank asks you, you don't want to say anything because you're scared, like what's gonna happen.
Right.
But
Right.
with time, I think that
Retribution.
I proved that I really wanted to change, that I
Okay.
really wanted to do better and be better. And I
Okay.
started getting some feedback.
Nice.
So, acting on the feedback, not being upset about it. Yeah, we don't like it. We don't like
Mm-hmm.
when somebody tells you negative stuff.
Right.
But when you step back and you can be aware of that, and you can kind of do some introspection, and you
Mm-hmm.
realize that, oh my God, I am doing these things, or I am saying that, or can I do better?
Right.
I think that the dynamic changes. And once
Definitely.
you become vulnerable as a leader, you open up to possibilities. And that
Right.
is when you start to see change.
Nice. Now, what brought you? Tell us a little bit about what got you to the police force. Like, why'd you want to become a policeman? How did that happen?
I so when I was little in Romania, I grew up in Romania. I moved here when I was
Okay.
21. I came here because I got married,
Really? You came
and
here when you were 21.
yeah, so I've been here for
Wow.
25 years.
That's awesome.
So I actually lived more here than in Romania. Most of my adult life has been in the US.
Okay.
What brought me is that I only read, Robert, two types of novels. That's it. Love
Really?
stories and crime. And I
Mm.
absolutely love crime stories. I loved getting into that criminal mind and
So, who's
reading
your
about it.
favorite?
And
Who's your favorite author?
oh boy, well, Agatha Christie has to be my favorite because all her novels are so well written, and they are at keeping you in suspense and so rare. You know how that you try to find out who the suspect is, and you think
Hmm.
it's one person and it's actually leading you to a different path, and you find out
Yep.
it's not. And it's almost like a onion, a layer, of the onions
With
coming
the
off.
plot
So
twists and
with the
everything.
plot
Yeah.
twist and everything, and I loved it. So that's
Nice.
one of the things that absolutely got me excited. And the way I kind of got to actually fell into it, I finished my first master's degree and I could not find a decent job.
Mm.
And I used to work in the criminal justice system already. So I worked
Hmm.
with juveniles in detention actually for
Oh,
about five
wow.
years.
Okay.
And a lot of my colleagues were getting picked up by different departments. And I said, what if? And the rest is history.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
so, and I
So,
loved it and I couldn't stay away from it. So I
there you
absolutely
go.
loved it.
So, from Romania, you came over, you loved crime novels, and you got into the into working with juveniles, and then to
Yeah,
the police force, and you're working and you're doing your thing. You're kind of being diligent as a professional, and you're going through and
yes.
you're honing your craft, and then you become a sergeant, they put you in charge of people, and you're like, oh my God.
Exactly. Now I'm not in
That
charge of me anymore.
Right, right. So, what kind of hurdles did you face, and how did you overcome them as you? Because I know you said that you kind of went and you did the leadership training, but what were some of the things that kind of challenged you and made you really have to up your game, if you would?
I think because I'm a very, very determined, but I'm very ambitious person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not happy with the status quo, even for myself.
Mm.
So
Nice.
to me, it was always trying to be better. How can I be a better leader? What can I do for everybody else? And,
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of times, and that drove my, I guess, testing process for promotion further is that if you want to be part of the change, then do
Mm-hmm.
something about it.
Yes.
Don't just sit in the sidelines and talk about how everybody else is doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, but also in that process, I also wanted to become better, be better. I learned that it was more about people, not about
Mm-hmm.
you any longer. I learned
Mm-hmm.
that compassion, you have to be a compassionate, but you also have to balance it
Nice.
with your authority figure.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that kind of drove me too is that I always had felt like I needed to prove myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's a predominantly male culture. We all know that. There are only two females in the department when I got there, so we
Wow.
didn't have a lot of females. And it was really important to me that I do well
Mm-hmm.
for myself and then for everybody else that I work with. And like I
Nice.
said, I wasn't the best at the beginning, and I know this, and recognizing that, being aware, and just trying to improve every single time. With
Mm-hmm.
every book, you apply something. With every training, you take something back that you
Mm-hmm.
can apply. I remember when I was going to trainings and write down notes, I would always have a notebook, or in the back of papers, it was all full of stuff that
Mm-hmm.
how I could apply those principles or whatever they were talking about to my current work environment.
Nice. And so, what kind of tell me about some of the wins that you had during that period of time when you were kind of a young leader? Some of the people, is there one story or anything that sticks out about, when you felt like you really affected somebody in a positive way?
Wow, I don't ever think of that, but what I think that I was able to do is when you believe in people and you encourage them, I
Mm-hmm.
honestly can say that I helped at least three people promote.
Mm-hmm.
And I helped people who perhaps didn't have confidence in themselves to get to where they wanted, now
Mm-hmm.
to be the best at their job, at their assignment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would like to believe it's not because of me, but it's because of their willingness. But maybe I had something to do with it.
Right.
Even if it was just guiding, believing in them,
Mm-hmm.
encouraging them to be
Yeah.
better. And one of those examples, I remember I had an officer, and we always clash. And
Mm-hmm.
she was one female on my squad, and
Mm-hmm.
she wanted to become a detective, and she's a brilliant detective. She's a great detective. She wanted to be a detective in sex crimes, and that was my specialty.
Mm-hmm.
So when I promote from being a detective. So we always had issues because uh, I would I would be very hard on the report writing.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is because I am an instructor and university instructor, but part of it is because it's so important to have your case very strong. And
Right.
if
Right.
something is not in the report, it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
Then how do you put people who are on the outside and are not at your crime scene, how are you going to transport them to visualize, if they close their eyes, and somebody is reading the story, the report, what would they see? Can they walk through your scene? Can they
Right.
smell what you're smelling? Can they
Right.
see what you're seeing? And so that is the type of the report writing. And we always clash because I would be so hard on her. And
So how did it work out?
I remember that the first time she received an attaboy from a detective sergeant that she came and I said, see, I said, this is your work. I only provided a little bit of guidance, but see what
Nice.
a difference it makes if you, and I believe that that kind of completely changed our relationship. We are very good
Nice.
friends now. We still keep in
Nice.
touch. She's one of my dearest friends, and
Right.
and,
Because
and,
she was
and
able to see that you
she was
cared
able,
about her and that
yeah,
you
and that I
cared about
wanted
her
her to
well-being.
perform. Exactly. And
Right.
I wanted her to get, she wanted to be sex crimes detective.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be able to do that, but we had to work on some things.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I knew that I was kind of harder on people in that
Mm-hmm.
way. I
Right.
expect a lot,
Right. You set the bar high.
but not, yes, but not because they couldn't do it. I
Exactly.
knew that they can do it. I
Right.
knew that you're going to be able to get, and now she excels at her job, and she was an awesome sex crimes detective, and I'm very proud of her.
Nice. And so, kind of, what about your experience, in the leadership training and everything that you had during, as a cop? What about that kind of compelled you to do the work that you do now? How did that transition happen? What brought you to the leadership world?
Well, and I think again it's trying to live that fingerprint, my fingerprint, because again, you go to different trainings, but we
Hmm.
don't take the time sometimes to mentor our
Right.
supervisors.
Right.
And what I noticed in time and speaking to the friends who work for private companies and speak to cops and speak to other supervisors in other areas and leaders in other police departments, there's always a common theme
Hmm.
that managers or the people who promote are those who have the technical skills down. They
Hmm.
know how to do the job,
Hmm.
but they don't understand that the human factor, the human
Yeah.
skills, the interpersonal skills, those are the ones that are going to ultimately make a difference on your bottom line. I don't care
Exactly.
in what corporation you are, I don't care if you're private or you are in an organization or city or work or government. Those are the skills like communication skills, emotional
Right.
intelligence, developing your understanding, your
Hmm.
authenticity as a leader, which I cannot
Right.
emphasize enough,
Hmm.
can actually get you the best results with people.
Yeah,
Because
definitely, definitely. I
people,
tell leaders
yeah,
all the time, right? We are prepared to become leaders, but with all the stuff that we do, like you said, we get the technical skills down, we got it, everything is good. But the issue is, as soon as we get really good at doing our job, then people say, "Hey, since you're so good at executing, how about we put you in charge of all these
they're more.
people and you go make them good at executing?" Which requires a completely different skill set
Skill.
than being
Yep.
good at it yourself, right? And it's
Yep.
so funny because so many leaders get into that space and it's like deer with headlights on, right? That's the reason kind of why I wrote my book and titled it the way I did. Why can't people just do their jobs? Is the immediate question, because as a leader, you got there because you're good at doing your job and you don't understand why other people can't do theirs, but that's a whole different skill set. So
Yeah,
I
no,
love that.
absolutely. But you're absolutely right. And that's why I do what I do. And that's why I decided to get into this arena. It's
Awesome.
because I realized that a lot of times, and how do we now change that? Because companies still do it every single day. And I
Mm-hmm.
was actually talking to one of my really good friends who used to be a project manager and I'm going to have her on my show because I wanted to talk to her from the other side, from the employee side, about
Mm-hmm.
leadership. And she was
Mm-hmm.
telling me how this lady is like a general, kind of like a general project manager for a specific area, but she never wanted to do that. She never wanted to
Right.
be a leader. And what's
Right.
one of the things that Jim Collins talks about in The Good, the Great is
Mm-hmm.
putting the right people on the
People
bus.
know.
Well,
Yep.
just because you believe that they can do a job, that doesn't mean that they can be the best at that, or
Exactly.
help them understand their strengths, their weaknesses, and then you, as a leader or as a CEO, use those in
Right.
the areas that they would best fit. Because
Exactly. That's your
otherwise,
job as the leader.
yeah, because otherwise you're forcing them to do something that they never wanted to force. And guess what? She's a
Mhm.
terrible leader.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
it's,
and part of a leader's job is to set their people up for success, right? It's not about, all right, I'm gonna make this hard because you got to struggle. It's about, you know, how can I help you to be more successful? How can I put you in the places where your strengths shine and where you're not asked to do things that you're not really good at? That's a
yeah.
pointless task as a leader. No, I like that. What about some of the leaders that you had kind of growing up or in the police force or whatever? Did you have any leaders that stood out to you that kind of
Um,
you under their wing or that made you
Yeah,
want
actually, the
to be a
chief of
leader?
police, my chief of police, who is still the chief of police, he kind of mentored me from a very young age, so to speak, very young because I was really young. But when we kind of started together at the
Okay,
same time, like a month apart, and he ultimately became my lieutenant when I was a detective. So he was the
nice.
investigations lieutenant, and I always wanted to know more, do better. And I approached him and I said, you know, I would love to know more. I would love to eventually promote, and I would love um, to become better and learn as much as I can. And he kind
Mm-hmm.
of guided me along the way.
Nice.
Like I mentioned, all the leaders for me, one of the biggest leaders, I guess, is Jesus. That's what I wrote on my thing, and
Mm-hmm.
he has to be first
Mm-hmm.
for me at least. But
Mm-hmm.
um, I love John C. Maxwell's books.
Yep.
I love again Jim Collins. I love Robert Welch. I loved
Awesome.
Abrashoff's books. It's Our Ship and It's Your Ship.
Mm-hmm.
The best damn ship in the Navy. I love that. It has really good. You know,
Yes.
it's really easy to read, but there are so many good lessons for leaders there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And one of the interesting things about it, and I don't know if you have this experience, but for me, being around good leaders and having like I remember my Marine Corps career and just in general, I always had really good bosses. And that was something that for me was extremely helpful in my development because I had bosses that were able to see my potential but give me space to grow, right? They were able to give me enough room to build, and that was something that I didn't realize at the time how impactful it was. But kind of in reflection, I look back and I'm like, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. I wouldn't be the leader that I am today if it weren't for those people being able to kind of create a safe space for me. And I think that a lot of times when we're in leadership positions, we don't necessarily recognize, and a lot of my clients, the people that I help, they don't really recognize the impact of their kind of influence on the people that they lead, just in giving them that belief. Like you kind of talked about, you were hard on your people, but you let them know that you believed in them. You let them know that you felt like um, they could do it and it was important. It was something that was really important for them to know that you cared, right?
Yes, I agree. And I didn't have always good leaders. I guess before I started,
Mm-hmm.
and I had other bosses I didn't like, so that was one of the things too, that I didn't want to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
but for the most part, I think that I did I was set up to succeed in a certain
Nice.
environment and helped along the way and guided. And I really think that
Nice.
that's one of the reasons I'm here today is because he did take the time to
Nice.
mentor and to talk to me, and then I talk from with other people and I learn from other people, and especially from books and leadership
Hmm.
trainings and anything that I could put my fingers on.
Right.
Constantly you learn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I just
again,
got finished reading John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of
beautiful
Leadership.
laws of leader.
Yeah.
Yes,
I love that book.
I'm number 14.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, no, I
Yep.
love that book. And then, yeah, number 20 was the one that was really interesting to me. How he talked about, kind of momentum and being able to grow exponentially, right?
Yes.
And how you have to get out of the way and you have to allow people to do what they're gonna do in order to grow like that. But no,
Yeah,
I'm
I
a
love
big
it.
fan of that.
It's very, and it's simple, but it's so true because
Hmm.
you can see it, and he gives some great examples
Yeah,
along the
he's
way.
he's he's phenomenal.
He's a very
Um,
gifted
so
writer,
talk to me a little
coach.
bit about some things that you're working on. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, talk to me about some things that you're working on currently. What are you working on currently that excites you? What's coming up that you're really excited about working on?
I am finishing a training, a leadership training that I'm going to offer it to first 10 companies that want to for free locally,
Nice.
just to get, of course, feedback, but I also want to see how is if it's well received, if they like it, if I could improve upon and so forth.
Awesome.
It's 8 hours of training, and we're going to do at the end some exercises too, but it's called authentic leadership, and
Oh,
every single letter is actually an acronym. It stands for something
nice.
that is a very important characteristic that I consider to be a very important characteristic in leadership.
Right.
So that's what I'm working on right now, and then
Nice.
I'm also
Exciting.
working on my first book.
Really?
uh, I
Congratulations.
wanted to write a book on communication for leaders. I
Okay.
think this is a topic that everybody could improve on.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Communication is probably the big miscommunication rather is the biggest cause of mistakes within organizations,
Oh
and
yeah,
especially of
oh
hurt
yes,
feelings and mistaken intentions.
yes, and especially right now when we have the younger generations entering the workforce and all they're used to is the text or email. They
Mm,
don't know how to interact,
right.
and it's very difficult to talk to somebody through the email to
Hmm.
communicate your emotions and your feelings when they're down the hall. So,
No, I agree. So, kind of, if everything goes the way that you want, your book is coming out, the course is coming out, and if say you have a great year next year and everything's going the way it's supposed to go, what else are we gonna be seeing from you? What kind of impact is that gonna have? What are you looking for? What are kind of your goals for this year?
my goals for this year is really finishing the training and being able to actually offering it and to start moving on that, and also to be done with my book. That's what I would
Nice,
really love to focus on this particular year. And I'm
nice,
on to a great start, and I hope this is my year. And my word for this year is action. That is
nice.
what I chose to focus on this year, is because I want to do more speaking. I
Okay.
want to attend more conferences and to help people. I want to get more involved and be seen and talk and help as much as I can as well.
Awesome.
So that's my goal for this year.
Well, cool, cool. I like it. And getting out there, getting seen, doing some speaking. Eh, are you going to kind of some conventions and some leadership events and things like that?
Yes, and primarily here, I'll start here first, and I am in a
Okay.
position where I can offering a lot of my training for free to a
Nice.
lot of companies. And one
Awesome.
of the other things that I'm working on, one of my really good friends who is a lieutenant for Phoenix PD, he's actually graduating with his doctoral degree in organizational leadership in May. So we thought that we are going to offer leadership training and coaching as a one company. So we're going to talk about that. So hopefully we can agree to move forward and have a company where we can do all of these things that we wanted to
Awesome.
do
Okay,
at different
good. So,
levels for police departments and also corporate as
so
well.
you got some collaborations going, things like
Yeah,
that.
I love that because you know what, Robert, like we had our conversation. I love collaboration because
Mm-hmm.
more brains are better than one.
Definitely.
And when you collaborate, but you make it a good, effective collaboration, you don't compete with each other, but you complement each other and you work in a synergy for the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can be 3 times more impactful.
I agree. That kind of that I always love. Stephen Covey talks about, right? We go from dependence to independence, and everybody kind of gets stuck there, and they forget that interdependence is where the
The
synergy
best.
starts to happen. Interdependence, understanding our roles and how we kind of merge and mesh together. That's how we take 1 plus 1 and don't make it 2. 1 plus 1 becomes 11 or 11,000 or 11 million, right? And
Yes.
so I'm a big fan of synergy and leveraging, everybody's greatness to make the world a better place.
Better. Yeah. And
Yeah,
the impact is a lot
definitely.
greater.
Yeah, you can definitely have a bigger impact. So here's the kind of the big question of the podcast always, right? Here at Legacy Leadership Consulting, we believe that good leaders have the ability to transform the world because they change the way that others see themselves and what is possible, right? And this is what transforms legacies. This is what makes generations after generations different because you existed, right? This is what John C. Maxwell talked about, and I was just reading this, like I said, the other day, and he was talking about legacy leadership. I was like, oh, he gave a tip to the
Your
company. Of
title.
course, he wrote the book like 10 years ago, so I can't really take credit. But but the cool part, like legacy leadership, is what we think leadership is about. But I wanted you to talk to the people, tell them a little bit about what's the most important benefit to society of having lots of good leaders, in your words.
Being truly a servant leader. I think
Mm,
that if we all can become more humble,
mm-hmm.
authentic,
Mm-hmm.
servant leaders, that then we can definitely make a huge impact in the world.
Nice, nice. I like that. I like that. Yeah, I love the humility and the authenticity part of that servant leadership, right? Because sometimes we hear a lot of stuff and people feel like you got to act a different way or you got to be a different thing to be a leader. And it's like, no, be who you are, faults and all, and
Yes.
realize that you're still that like that's part of the leadership journey is you've got to get better, right?
But yeah, and one of the things, Robert, is that I'm also in direct marketing, like in direct sales,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things I was listening to the training and a training, and and that person was talking about, the people follow you because that's who, if they sign up, if your friends are gonna sign up, they're gonna sign up
Mm-hmm.
because of you.
Right.
And I was thinking, making the parallel with leadership, and I'm thinking, this is even true in leadership. People
Mm-hmm.
will follow you because of who you are
Yes.
as a person and
Mm-hmm.
not because the vision is great. Yeah, if the vision aligns with who you are and what message you send and the
Right.
values that you have, that's great. But
Mm-hmm.
if they follow you, they follow almost unwavering faith to you as the person because they
Exactly.
resonate with you, because they buy into you, the person.
Exactly. and being able to kind of embrace that fact that there are people that you are here to lead, that you are here to influence, that you are here to impact, and that's kind of what your life is about. All right. No, I agree wholeheartedly with you. Right. And so now we got to a little bit of the fun part of the of the
Trivia question.
yes, we get to some trivia questions, right? So, room, desk, or car, which one do you clean first and why?
My room, definitely. Because
Okay.
that is my sanctuary.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, that's exactly what my wife told me. She was like, the house has to be clean because this is
Clean.
my safe space.
Exactly, exactly. And I'm always cleaning, so I can't believe her.
Nice.
I can
So,
resonate with that.
cool, cool. Question number two. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Oh boy. I'm already attempting my second profession.
Yeah, you like me. I always tell people I like to consider myself a career renaissance man. Otherwise, you could say I have career ADD, right?
Right? I know, because I'm always busy, always wanted to do something. So I
Mm-hmm.
was a dental assistant. I had a
Mm-hmm.
cleaning business. I did home staging. Then I couldn't do it anymore because of my back, but I loved the design and doing all of this,
Nice.
doing all types of. And people are like, "Do you ever sleep? Like, do you ever like stay still?" And I'm like, "No,
Right.
I wanted to do everything."
Right, exactly. Where do you get time to do all this? Yeah, when I tell people all the stuff that I've done, they always say the same thing. They're like, where do you find the time? I'm like, I didn't do it all at the same time.
Time. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, but no. All right, so the last one is if you had $1 million, only 1 month to spend it, and you could only give 20% to charity, what would you do
I
with the
would,
other 80%?
you know what I would do? I would build a halfway house. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. So two things actually. So I would build a halfway house for truly people who are down on their luck, to
Mm-hmm.
have a transition place, a safe space to
Mm-hmm.
come to while they're looking for jobs and doing all these things,
Mm-hmm.
and they can work and they could clean there and do all the chores around the house to maintain it and so forth, but they would have a room to themselves and a space. You know,
Okay.
while I was a cop, I found some couples who are like that, and you knew right away that they were truly down on their luck.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you try to help them and you want to, but there's no really a lot of resources, because you either have to be on drugs recovering or you have to be completely homeless. There's no
Right.
really. So I would love to be able to do that and then get
Nice.
enough investors so that we can keep it for sustainability reasons.
Mm-hmm. I
And
like
the
that.
other one, I always wanted to build a church.
Really?
Yeah. And
Nice.
that I promised God a long time ago that if I become a millionaire, I'll build a church.
Well,
So I'm
there
going to
you
keep
go.
my word.
Right, I was about to say you got to keep your word. You got to make sure
Yeah, you always
that
keep your word to God.
yeah, you got to keep God happy.
I
So
don't want him to strike me.
right, the
I'm
Lord give it,
striking
the
you
Lord
out.
take it
Bam.
away. Right. No, but we discussed this a little bit before. But now that the people have gotten to know you a little bit better, tell them again. Tell us again. Who is the ideal person, kind of that you for your services, for your leadership services, and your product for your book? Who is the ideal person that you're kind of reaching out to? Your ideal client.
So my ideal client are truly the first line manager and probably mid management as well,
Mm-hmm.
and also the small business owners who are expanding their business, and now they're finding themselves that they have to supervise to manage a team of people,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they don't have the knowledge on how to do that, they don't have the experience on how to do that, they don't know, you know, how to do that, or
Mm-hmm.
they fear that, oh my God, how am I going to do it? Because a lot of times they have to concentrate on what they do best. So perhaps I can develop that person to develop that sixth sense and see who is an innate leader within the company who can help and take away some of that. And it's just that humanistic skills that I'm trying to hone into and help people. And of course, the first level managers, especially because they have such an impact on organizations and on the bottom line. So when we're talking about the organization, and I'm talking about on people, because when you influence people, you ultimately influence the increase in your productivity,
Exactly.
and that automatically increases your profit. There's
Right,
no
your
question about that.
profitability, yeah, and your
Yeah.
ability to meet customer demand and everything else. Oh, awesome,
So
awesome. So yeah, if you all have you small business owners out there that are listening, if you've got some mid-level managers that need some training, things like that, how can they get in touch with you? And because you're out in Arizona, but you
I'm
can
out
do
in
things all over
Arizona.
the place, right?
Oh yes, and I can do webinars too over the Zoom or even Skype,
Perfect.
like webinars, and just do the trainings.
Nice.
The best way to reach me is inspirationalleadershipcoaching.com. There's a
Okay.
contact page there, or of course Facebook page. If they are friends of yours, they will automatically. And if it's okay, I'll add my information to the when you post this podcast to the link. I'll make sure I'll also drop all my contact information, and I'll drop on my email as well.
Definitely go ahead and put that in there. And in the description, there should be I put that stuff in there as well. So there'll be
Okay,
ways to
great.
get in touch with you all over the place. I want to make sure that everybody is definitely there, getting in touch with you. And I want to say thank you tremendously for being here. This time is always wonderful. I love hearing, all of the things that you do. And now this time we got to let you do a little bit more talking this time so people can learn a little bit more about you. So I got to return the favor. Everybody who's out there watching, go ahead and give some wow faces and some hearts. Let Mirela know that we thank you for being here. And I just wanted to really just say thank you again for making my first episode a phenomenal one. So I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
thank you, Robert. Thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure talking to you,
Thank you
and
tremendous.
love everything you're doing, and keep up the great work. And I love, love, love our conversations. And again, thank you so much. I'm honored. Thank you so much for watching with us.
Yes.
And I hope I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you tremendously. All right. So to wrap up here, everybody, like I said before, for those of you all that stayed to the end, thank you all tremendously. And I told you that I would let you know how to get access to my best-selling book, Why Can't People Just Do Their Jobs? The Empowering Leaders Guide to Having More Fulfillment, Less Stress, and Getting the Best Out of Those that you lead. So remember, step one of getting the book and getting access to the book is to go and share this podcast to all of your friends. You got to make sure that you go and share it. After you shared it, go ahead and type in the comments, shared purpose, right? Shared purpose, and the whole idea of purpose is that we have a shared purpose in becoming better leaders, all right? And my team will get you the information about how to get your copy. I want you to thank you again, Mirela, for being here. Thank all of you all for tuning in. Tune in next week, Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Next week guest is Miss Iralmis Carrasco, who is one of my fellow incubated authors down at with Dr. Angela Loria. She is a personal life coach and success coach, and so remember that she's going to be on next week. We're going to have a great conversation. So for all you all out there, remember that there is a reason for you being here. There's a reason for you being alive. There's a reason for you being there to lead those that you lead, right? God had a reason rather for making us all. And I'm going to read this out really quickly. As Marianne Williamson said, we are all made to shine like children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us, not just in some of us, but in us all. So go out and shine. That is your purpose. And while you're shining may be scary to you, right? You got to remember that your shining gives other people permission to do the same. That overcoming your fear liberates other people from their fears. So go and let your light shine to the world. And remember, to live every day like it was on purpose. See you next time. Thanks,
Bye.
Mirella.
Thank you
Have a
so
great one.
much. You
Y'all
too.
take it
Thanks.
easy.
Bye.
Bye bye.